I'm not sure how Jim and Kisty got the first chamber. It came off a big yacht. And it was a very unusual chamber because it was collapsible and quite portable. 2 people could carry the chamber.
There are people on this planet that have such an impact wherever they go. People that do selfless things, the heroes amongst us. This is just such a story about the history of the Utila Hyperbaric Chamber and the 2 people that made it happen. Jim and Kisty Engel arrived on Utila in 1993 from North Dakota, where they owned a dive shop. It's crazy to imagine anyone owning a dive shop in North Dakota, right? Where could they possibly dive?
Back into the corner all the way.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Because of his unique diving experience in extreme environments, Jim became very adept at diving medicine, how to recognize decompression sickness, embolisms, and other diving maladies, and how to treat them. They bought the Utila Lodge, knowing that diving medicine on Utila was in its infancy at best. So they came loaded with oxygen tanks, backboards, and first aid kits with a little bit of everything, just in case. Oh yeah, they also brought their kids, Sean and Rebecca. There are a lot of hard truths about Utila's diving past. First, there was no full-time doctor on the island. Utila had many visiting doctors and nurses that selflessly gave their time, their expertise, and their hearts, providing medicine and supplies, and always doing whatever they could to help. This is crazy to remember, but often, those of us that were instructors were the highest qualified medical personnel on the rock besides Jim. A heartbreaking example of this. One time when Jim was off island, we did CPR on a dear friend for 3 hours after a freediving accident because there was no doctor on the rock to pronounce him dead. We finally called it and said goodbye to our friend Nico. We felt strongly that had there been a defibrillator on the rock, we may have been able to revive him. We were able to raise $5,000 very quickly to purchase a defibrillator for Utila in honor of Nico. Prior to Jim and Kisty, there were no oxygen tanks on the rock available to treat diving injuries. And besides the lodge, no one carried oxygen on their boats. Diving injuries at that time and to this day involving recreational diving were and are rare. The problem back then was the lobster divers. Everyone on Utila quickly realized Jim's advanced medical training, coupled with having the only boat on the rock that could make the crossing to Roatan in the middle of the night with an injured diver requiring oxygen, IV fluids, and expert monitoring on the way, and began to drop divers off at the dock of the Utila Lodge. This became commonplace, and Jim and Willie were making that 50-mile round trip to the hyperbaric chamber on Roatan in the middle of the night in rough seas, all too often. There was only one solution. Utila needed its own chamber. Jim and Kisty began looking for a chamber as early as 1994. There was no internet back then, so they couldn't just Google it. As fate would have it, they got a call one day from a cool and generous man with a huge yacht and a portable hyperbaric chamber. He offered to donate it to Jim and Kisty, and their response was a resounding yes. Finally. Now they had to figure out the logistics for getting this foldable chamber shipped from Miami and all the rigmarole therein. They also had to build a home for the new chamber before it arrived. Receiving a donated chamber was incredibly complicated, obviously, but the fact is, no one knew how to operate it. We were all sort of winging it back then. A group of people known as the Italians came down and helped with the setup and training the core people who would be working in the new chamber. One heartwarming aspect of the chamber coming to Utila were the selfless and engaged locals and foreigners that came together to learn how to work not only the chamber, but to work together. Having the chamber did not mean the Engels were not spending a lot of time on patients delivered to their dock, for that was still happening. It meant that they did not have to go to Roatan anymore in the middle of the night. The upside was huge, not only for the Engels, but for the island.
You're going to have to take a ride in the chamber, okay? Whoa! You got cushions and pillows in there? You ready? She has the
In 2001, the chamber in Bay Island's College of Diving burned to the ground. The chamber was gone. Jim and Kisty wasted no time getting back on track with yet another chamber. It was almost like starting at the beginning, for they had to build another building to house the new chamber and dive school. Except this time, they knew what they were doing. Moreover, how to get to the end and operational. In Kisty's words, ship, build, set up, train. This new chamber was an enormous step for Utila's ability to treat diving injuries, as well as a host of other issues. The efforts of the Engels over these many years cannot be overstated. More times than I can count, I would come to the lodge in the morning for coffee, and the entire family had been up all night, treating an injured diver, or someone who was ill, or someone with any kind of injury. For all emergencies went to the lodge, no matter when, and no matter what, period. I reckon for the most part, they still do. It's important to take note, they never asked for this, and yet they rose to this responsibility in an impressive, selfless, and incredibly effective way. Born out of necessity, the Saving Lobster Divers program that Kisty Engel had long envisioned came true in 2018. This coordinated effort involving Kisty Engel, Bogdan Stanishiuk, the Utila Lodge, the Bay Islands College of Diving, the Utila Hyperbaric Chamber, multiple instructors, generous sponsors, and volunteers, all to facilitate and train at-risk lobster divers from the Utila Keys, was a tremendous success. This training brought awareness and understanding of the inherent dangers of diving without knowledge or proper gear. The knowledge the lobster divers took with them from this grand experience lives on, and injured divers being dropped off at the lodge dock are few and far between. Knowledge, the gift that keeps on giving. The Engels' arrival on Utila was a pivotal moment in Utila's history because of the fine example the lodge had set early on, inasmuch as having oxygen on all boats, medic first aid kits, backboards, and the knowledge of how to use all of this equipment in an emergency spread to other dive shops and soon became a calling card for dive shops across the board. Slowly but surely, everyone began to invest in oxygen kits. Instructors learned about field neurological examinations and became DAN oxygen instructors. Boat captains were also trained in medic first aid and oxygen administration. Fast forward to 2025. Jim and Kisty's vision for a better Utila lives on. With a full-time doctor on board, the Utila Hyperbaric Chamber and Trauma Center continues to serve the medical needs for divers, tourists, and all people on Utila, no matter what.